Welcome to the Advanced Dashboarding Tips and Techniques, where we're going to run through a demo of how to add JavaScript visualizations to your dashboards. Before we do that, I've been told that you need to stare at this for at least 15 seconds, and I'm sorry about that, so let's just make it as awkwardly silent as possible while we're reading this. That's close enough. My name's Karthik Subramanian, and I work at Function One. We're one of Splunk's PS partners, and the first night, we actually received the Innovation Award. Ashish is right there. You may have seen his picture on a lot of things. And we've done a lot of PS in many different industries, and both architecture as well as on the user side. So if you do get the slides, there will actually be a second visualization in there about using C3, but we just don't have enough time to do that in 15 minutes. But we're going to first talk about development mode, and then we're going to create a D3 visualization together. So here's how you enable development mode. You go into the untouchable Etsy system local, and you go into web.conf, and then under settings, you're going to add these 6 settings. And actually, you shouldn't do it that way, and you should actually do what I said in the hint below, where you create an app that you enable when you're trying to develop things, and then disable otherwise, because this will really slow you down. So what we did with those 6 lines there is that we turned off minification, which will actually slow it down considerably. We're turning off the caching for your JavaScript and all other objects, regardless of size or number. And then we're turning on the splat lugs to debug. And if you don't remember to turn these back off, your Splunk instance, the web interface will be so much slower. So now that we've enabled development mode, we're going to go into building our D3 visualization. D3 is a publicly available library at d3js.org, and you can either work within that framework of visualizations people have already made, or you can add your own. This is what the app file structure that we're using is. The app name is up top, and we are mostly going to be touching the 4 files that are bolded. The visualization source, the CSS, visualizations.conf in the default directory, and then the default.meta. So before we do anything, we need to bring in our dependencies, and that way we're bringing in the D3 library, the jQuery library, and the underscore library. You do that from the command line and just run npm to install each of these. Sorry about that. Each of these different dependencies. Creating the basics of our visualization source, don't worry, I will give you a link for all of this code in GitHub. But what we're going to do here is, right now this is before we've talked about the update view down here, but we're setting up our dependencies, we're initializing the visualization, and we're also providing ourselves a CSS selector. And then we go into the update view function, and at that point, we're setting the size, we're setting the scale. Also, the first thing that we do is we make sure that it doesn't freeze or break if there's no data, and then we initialize it with the first data point. We're setting up our SVG, and right now I'll show you later what it looks like, but we're setting up the arcs, which is why you saw pies in there, and setting those up, drawing and filling them, and then we're going to place the number to show what the gauge reads at. After that, we're going to add in our CSS style sheet to make sure that we are centering the SVG and centering the meter as well. Next, we need to update the visualizations.conf to make sure that Splunk knows the visualization exists. And then if you want to make it able to be used in other apps, you add it to the default or local.meta where you're exporting it to the system. And this lets the other apps have access to the visualization. Once you've done that, you're going to build the visualization, and then you can run Splunk, use the visualization, and change all of your code as necessary. And all you need to do is refresh the Splunk page without restarting, which is why we enable development mode. You do need to recompile the code every time you change it. So what we're doing here is we're just going to run a pretty simple index equals internal, the stats count, and we're going to go down to the more visualizations, and this is actually the visualization that we coded for right here. So in the last 15 minutes, there have been about 3,700 events that have happened in the internal index. So what all that we've done here is, right now we don't have any options, but you can actually build those in. And another thing that you can add is error handling. So right now I made it so that it will only take in a single value, and otherwise if you're trying to add multiple values in, it throws an error just saying this is not the data I'm looking for. So you can use these sorts of things, and it doesn't just have to be, you can set any sort of time horizon. You can do a real-time search. And right now, I have set the limit so that the top of it was 10,000, but you can actually create options in there where you can add dynamic limits, dynamic colors, instead of just hard coding it as blue. But I wanted to give you guys the framework of how you can kind of quickly add a visualization into Splunk, into any app that you want. And then you can go from there and customize it in any of many different ways through the D3 library. So, do you guys have any questions? Yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your... Yeah, the question is, can you set up parameters to... can you set up the parameters so that at runtime you can figure out your dynamic limits? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. You can do that through, first you have to handle that in the update view function. And then once you've set those dynamic parameters, they will show up here under the format options that you see under other visualizations as well. And you can set those either statically or dynamically. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will be around after if you have longer questions too, but yeah. Anybody else have any questions? All right. So if you do, sorry. Yeah. So the how to build it using the JavaScript, that's more JavaScript, and it's not really much in Splunk docs. However, the tree that I showed you here, the file tree, that minus the things that I changed color-wise, that is available. You can actually get that blank sort of application from Splunk where everything is empty, but all of the files are created in that tree structure. And if you do want the code that I put up there as well as visualization, I threw it up on GitHub for you. So you guys can pull it down, play around with it, put it wherever you want to add more visualizations. And you can also, we didn't discuss this too much, but you can actually have multiple visualizations in an app. You just have to make sure that each one is in its own space. Like in that visualization name directory, you can create multiple ones if you'd like to. So you could actually export some sort of visualization package once you have one ready that you really like and want to take to other Splunk instances or to the cloud or something like that. You give them the app and they'll put it on your instance. Anything else? All right, if you guys have any questions, I'll be up here afterwards. Thank you.